Well, hey everybody. Welcome to the First Million Words episode number 30. This was a real fun episode. We managed to track down, subdue, and then subject to our inane questions. Number one New York Times bestseller, Jim Butcher. Let me say that again. Jim Butcher. He agreed to be on our show for some reason. I'd like to fantasize that he was about to say no, and then he listened to our show and decided that he was our biggest fan, and he just had to be on the show. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna run with it. I'm just gonna keep believing that. So we managed not to nerd out too much. Guillermo did a really good job of keeping it cool. I'm very proud of him. And again, thanks go out to Jim Butcher for being part of our little show, and I'm really glad that it didn't accidentally turn into an episode of the Chris Farley show where we're like, remember that time that Harry used magic? Yeah, magic is real, right? So it almost turned into that, but thanks to everybody who listens to the show too. So without you, none of this would be possible. Well, I mean, it would be possible, it just wouldn't be fun because we'd be talking to ourselves. So everybody, please enjoy this episode with Jim Butcher, where we discuss many things. And don't forget, the next couple of weeks, we're also going to talk to Jim about little things. We'll make sure to do our mini episodes with him, and then at the end of December, the very end of the year, we'll do something special for everybody. So stay tuned, and we'll maybe take some kind of retrospective look back on our tenure as podcasters, or we'll do something less boring. Either way, thanks for listening. Remember, you can subscribe through iTunes, through Stitcher. Leave us some comments on iTunes, that would be nice, or leave comments on the show site. It's fmwpodcast.com. And also don't forget to read Cold Days by Jim Butcher and all the Dresden Files, and look out for, there's a little tiny spoily. If you've read up through book 12, you're fine. If not, I put a little spoiler warning, so you'll be okay. Listen without fear, but when you hear that spoiler warning, go ahead and stop listening for a few seconds. So here it goes, episode 30, Jim Butcher. The First Million Words, episode 30, Jim Butcher.
Jim Butcher. We're actually speaking to Jim Butcher.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to excuse us. Right now it's pretty much all we can do to not completely nerd out. We'll try to keep it as professional as possible.
Okie doke.
But
Thanks, Guillermo, for getting the disclaimer out of the way.
yeah.
Well, hi. I'm Ben. This is my brother-in-law and co-host and hetero life mate, Guillermo.
What's up?
Hey, how you doing?
We're good. I'm sorry to hear about the stomach flu thing.
Yeah, that was fairly unpleasant.
Yeah, I'm sorry to I'm sorry that you had to go all through that. Not only that, then now speak with us while you're still recovering. But we'll make it painless.
Oh, it's okay. I'm just I'm in my computer chair at home, so that's way different than being on a bouncy airplane or something.
Right.
Yeah, or surrounded by people at like a bookstore doing a signing, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So while I'm patient zero for the zombie apocalypse, shaking hands and all.
Ooh, story idea.
I just write it down. Make sure you acknowledge in the book. But it's actually awesome to be speaking with you. You're actually you're really the only author that I've actually read before we've done the interview. I read some, but it's like every now and then you just kind of trail off, and you're like, oh well, I have life to do, so.
He inadvertently I think referred to one author as as
the wrong name.
went by the wrong book, and I had to like text him over the phone, like, "Hey, wrong author," and he's like, "Oh, I mean, I don't know."
Yeah, we're much more professional now. Sorry about all that.
Oh yes, way more. I actually, well, first off, thanks for coming on.
Oh sure.
I was very, very excited to hear a reply because, well, it was Guillermo that got me into the Dresden Files, and I've been, as you've probably heard from a bunch of other people, I just kind of consumed all of it in the past maybe 11 months. I've either been doing the audiobook or the last two of them have been the ebooks.
Uh-huh.
And I just it's really good.
Oh well, thank you very much.
Enjoy it, and and it was all Guillermo's fault that I given up. I could be hanging out with my son, but I'll just read a book. Which, by the way, he's going to be. I'm in the garage. I don't know if you can hear in the background. He and mommy are out there. My son and my wife are out there playing, and he's really into trains right now. So if you in the background hear him saying "choo choo" or "all aboard,"
right.
I'll just leave it in the show because it sounds fun.
Right. How old is he?
He is 2 years old, and I also have a new daughter who's about 4 months old now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a very busy person then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You've got these two tiny irrational people in your house now, so.
Yeah, those are the tiny ones. Yeah, but I also have me and my wife to deal with too, being irrational.
Yeah, but see, you can occasionally you can bring reason into play there. With the little kids, it's like, no, I want to be the captain. It's okay, you can be the captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really nothing else that works. Is occasionally you just have to understand. All right, they're tiny and crazy. I'm just gonna have to roll with this punch and try and pick up, get my vengeance on them when I'm old.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll wait till their first day of high school and drop them off and yell, "Hey, don't do drugs. Make good decisions," and that'll be my revenge.
Oh, even better, shout "I love you" out the window.
Oh.
That'll. I mean, come on, that's don't do. All the parents are saying stuff like that. Shouting "I love you" in public. Oh, they're never gonna live that down.
He'll get beat up like, "Haha, your parents love you."
Yeah.
If you're wee yourself, give me a call right away, okay? Love you. Yeah. I'm not gonna have children for a good long while, but I'm already making plans.
Right.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you got your nephew and niece to worry about, so
I can be the cool uncle now. I'll be like, okay, I guess you can take a sip of my beer, and that way we can document the first downward this first step towards that downward spiral, and it'll be my fault. And
yeah, there you go.
Because that's the way their family works.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, on that note, I'll go ahead and get started. I kind of just ease into the interviews anyway, so I just we'll fade in now and pretend like we've been talking this whole time, which I guess we have. but it'll sound great when the episode goes up. It'll sound like, oh, we've been having this grand old time. So I want to start. The first thing here is pretty much, if you don't know this, you've kind of been doing this a while.
Yeah, a little while.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it doesn't feel like it's been a long time, but I realized last night, I think that it's been about 12 years, and that I've been doing this, and getting paid for it too. And the first 9 years when I did it and didn't get paid for it, seems like it was a lot longer than the last 12 have been.
Nice. Yeah, and it's been since 2000, we've had pretty much a book a year, and maybe even less than in between 12 months, and then 04, 05 through 09, it's been 2 books a year. So I guess my first question would be, how?
I part of it was that I kind of built up. I built up several books before I got anything sold. I think before I sold anything, I had the first 3 Dresden Files written and the first Codex book written. And so, and that was sort of, it's just something you get used to. I mean, you work every day, and you start figuring out ways. Okay, this is going to be my working pattern every day. I'll need to get this many words done to get done in time, and mostly that's just it. You just put your butt in the chair and work. Mm-hmm. And the real issue lately has been, when I first got started, nobody really cared. It's like I had some books, and occasionally they'd be like, "Oh, hey, dude, cool book. Oh, thank you," and that would be about that.
You get a fist bump out of them, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, man. It's like, okay, cool. I'm glad you liked it, and we're both getting what we need out of this relationship. Awesome. And then as things have gone on, then it's always, hey, can you come to my con? Can you be on the podcast? Can you do this interview? Can you be on TV over here? And
can you edit my book?
Yeah. Can you read it? Yeah, and so now there's all these other things that get added onto your career that aren't writing that you still have to do, and that's kind of becomes a new challenge, is managing your time so that you can still get the work done and also kind of show up and talk to the folks who want to talk to you and go see the fans who want to see you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and that's we just learned that lesson with NaNoWriMo with the 50,000 words in November. Is that, I wonder more or less, like, how many, do you set a goal for yourself too? Like, today I'm going to do that 1,600 words, or is it just like, you write when you get the time, or is it like the 8 hours a day thing?
Well, it kind of depends on how close the deadline is. I can sit down and do like an 8 hour and just grind out the chapters. But when I do that, it doesn't really it doesn't really come to me very easily. And I can do maybe 300, 400 words an hour, kind of slowly plonking them out like that. Mm-hmm. And it's unpleasant. But you can't really tell the difference between that and another situation at the end. I mean, the writing is still the writing, but, on the other hand, if I get myself in the right frame of mind and I have a good idea of what I want to write, and it's clear in my head, and I can just sit down and write it, I think my record's about 2,200 words in an hour.
Nice.
And that's way better. I like to think of that as working smarter, not harder. Plus, if I go with that kind of setup, part of my writing process is I need to sit down and play some video games first. And okay, now I'm ready to go.
Yeah. That's a story of my life. Yeah, I do pretty much all of my writing when I'm at work, which I'm lucky enough to have an overnight security job where I don't have to secure anything.
Ooh, I've had a job like that. It was overnight tech support where I didn't have to support anything.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, mine's at like a retirement home, and nobody ever, I'm there basically in case anybody, like teenagers, break in. And
right.
It never happens, so I get these big chunks. Like I work a 15-hour shift every week, and I find like in that shift, I always say, all right, when 12 o'clock comes around, that's when I'm going to start writing. And of course, when 12 o'clock comes around, that's when I'm like, well, let's troll Facebook for a little bit, and then, but if I just kind of get into it and start, then yeah, I actually got about 1,700 words last Saturday night. It was just because I was like, I think I'm going to go right now. So yeah, it's funny how that when you sometimes I think it might be just because I'm kind of a lazy person. So if I tell myself, hey, get cracking, then, part of me is gonna like rebel against myself, and I find it's much better if it's organic. Like I just go out and take the laptop out by the pool and write. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. Of course, on the other hand, I mean, you've also got to be able to, if you're going to do it professionally, you've got to be able to do it the grown-up way, where you say, okay, this book is due next week, and I've got another 30,000 words to write, so let's divide that by 7. All right, now I have to do that every day, and that's not as much fun, but. but I kind of save that for when I'm desperate and when the editor is giving me sort of wide-eyed desperate looks.
Oh yeah, there's that big difference. Like when college years, if you had a term paper to do and you put it off until 2 hours before, then you get that butt in the seat and you write that whole 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But do you find that you write better under that type of pressure, or is it better to just take your time?
Oh, I think you get a better book if you just take your time. But I think that's true with just about anything. On the other hand, having that kind of pressure is also a good. It can either be one of those soul destroying things where you find yourself under the pressure and you go, someone just shoot me right now. I can't do this. Or it's one of those things where it's like pressure's on. There's 20 seconds left on the shot clock. Give me that ball.
Right.
And the one is really positive and the other one is really is very whiny and pathetic.
Yeah, one of them is just, take your time, and the other is like, oh my god, it's an episode of 24, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
You, be Jack, be like Jack.
Yeah, stab this dude in the knee and find the bomb.
Yeah, exactly. That's my writing advice to you. Stab somebody in the knee and find the bomb.
That's going to be on our show promo now.
Awesome.
Last night I was looking through, reviews, because all the people I talked to about Dresden Files, which so far is the only kind of book line that I've read. The first book of Codex Lair is waiting for me on the Kindle, but it's sort of like the people who I talked to about it, they either have never read Dresden Files or they have and they absolutely love it. What do you really attribute to that? Do you think it's just that your writing just resonates with people, or is it just I don't know? What do you think? What do you think is really the cause of all that?
Well, the ones who love it are the one the publisher has gotten the drug to, and the other ones are the ones that have some sort of discernment. I don't know. I'm one of those. I'm one of those guys who got a degree in English literature, and I thought it made me very smart about writing for a long time. And what I have to say about the Dresden Files is that they are not literature, nor meant to be literature, nor to be read as literature. They are there for people to read and have fun, and that's kind of the idea.
No psychoanalytical readings of Harry Dresden.
You're right, exactly. We can tell that what the writer is saying about Dresden by having him wear this long black cloak is that he is some sort of substantial figure of death, and that every time he enters a situation that he is changing it in the same way death is like, no, what I mean to say is he's wearing a long black coat.
Yeah, but now that you mention it, that kind of works.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm never going to read it the same now.
So it's just that the books are, they are really accessible to everyone. So that's really kind of what it boils down to, just accessibility.
Well, yeah. I mean, I want people to be able to read them and have a good time. I don't want to, I want when somebody gets done with the Dresden File, I'm going to go, oh, that was awesome. Now I want to go get in and ride for the roller coaster again. That's kind of the thing I want to do. And the books are very grounded in geek culture in a lot of ways, because I'm writing the books for science fiction and fantasy fans, of which I am one. And I really think that if you're somebody who is sort of a part of that culture and can pick up on these references and can get these jokes that are in these throwaway lines that Dresden tosses out, that there's there's kind of this inclusive feeling that you get from that. I mean, gosh, I was one of these kids who grew up and had the bad taste to be the smartest kid in the class and the smallest kid in the class. So I got beat up so many times, I got to tell you, because I couldn't keep my mouth shut either. If I could have done, if one of those things hadn't been true, maybe I would have made it out of grade school and middle school without being beaten up so much, but it wasn't.
Oh.
and kind of, so I kind of have this I kind of identified myself pretty early as, oh wait, I'm a nerd. That's what's going on here. Okay, well, I better go look up some nerd stuff. And
okay, gotta get on it. Yeah.
Yeah, really, and science fiction and fantasy fans. I mean, we've seen most of the same movies. We like most of the same shows. Mm-hmm. We read from the same kind of general pool of books, and I'm writing this book for those guys. I'm writing this book for the folks who are like me, who maybe who probably were not playing a lot of football in high school.
I was the football.
Oh.
I absolutely I get it where it's coming from. Yeah, they are very accessible books. I mean, another thing is just the fact that the characters they're complex while not being completely a mystery, except for the ones that absolutely need to be. But yeah, I do. It's weird. I very rarely nerd out over things that happen in a book, outside of Dresden Files. Like when the gatekeeper shows up in this most recent one, I kind of freak out.
Don't spoil it for me. Come on, I'm only halfway through it.
You haven't gotten that far?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, he shows up and he tells Harry that he has to go to Mount Doom. So that he could defeat Darth Vader and make sure that the Enterprise gets out of the vortex alive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, it's all. I'm not going to read it now because I know it's going to happen. Crap.
Yeah, you're a professional. You knew this. You knew this was a risk.
Yeah. You know that. Oh, as a warning to anybody out there that maybe hasn't, because okay, don't go on Wikipedia and look up the Dresden Files if you haven't already read like every single book. Because, I went on there and I was like, I want a refresher on how the different vampire courts work. And, I was like, Wikipedia. And, I look up the Red Court and it's like, spoiler alert. And then Harry killed all of them. And I was like, crap! And I closed the window. But I didn't catch what book it happened in, so, the whole series now, until I finally got to when it happened, I was like, oh, maybe it happens here. Maybe it happens here. So, the whole time I was like, ooh, this one's called Blood Rights. It must happen there,
Right, yeah. Yeah, when Harry officially earns his Doctor Who merit badge.
Yeah.
Wiping out an entire civilization. There you go.
Right.
We'll be right back with more from Jim Butcher.
Have you heard of the Round Table Podcast? Here's how it works. We invite authors onto the show. Welcome to the big chair at the round table, Sherry Priest, Tim Pratt, Gail Carriger, Seanan McGuire, Patrick Rothfuss. We ask them questions.
What an excellent question.
No one's ever asked me that question before.
These are great questions, by the way.
Wow, no one's asked me that before.
Then we invite writers on to present a story idea.
The genre of this story is a fantasy set in a space-like setting.
It's a superhero western.
It's a steampunk, diesel-punk fusion just because of the timeline that it's in.
It is a supernatural horror story with just a bit of a detective thriller peppered into it.
And then we workshop the story.
You're going to know what your ending is when you know what your conflict is.
Brian, I like your Sopranos meets Iron Punk meets Rome meets Psychotic Future Killers. I think that's a great mashup.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, and I can't believe I hadn't thought of that.
Sure. I think that's a must. I love that idea.
And everyone leaves in a state of writerly bliss.
You guys have given me so much to work with right now. It's ridiculous. And
the ideas that I've gotten out of this today, the gears are just running. I've
spending this time with you guys has made it a whole lot more likely that this will get written.
The Round Table Podcast. Check us out on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or at our website, www.roundtablepodcast.com. The Round Table Podcast. Literary alchemy. One podcast at a time.
Saying there's, the two groups of people, those who haven't heard of it yet and those who, are diehard fans. There's also kind of a subgroup. And this this is kind of one of the trappings of being a nerd. You get really involved in something, and then you kind of start, you like hate the things you love. Like, you get kind of protective of it, like when Star Wars was re-released as a special edition, or when the prequels come out. It's like all the big Star Wars fans hated it, mostly.
Right.
But if you were like a new person to it, you wouldn't hate it so much because you're not a Star Wars nerd.
Right, exactly.
There is a little part of me that is, reading the Dresden Files and just, all these, like, the things fly at me, like, why is Harry wearing a hat on the cover, but he never talks about wearing a hat? And, at the end of Stormfront, he calls the scorpion an insect, but it's actually an arachnid. And in one book, he's got a silver circle of summoning, but in the next book, it's copper, and I wonder if you get a lot of that, having, being a person who has fans. I wonder if you get a lot of, like nerdy answers like that, and you just have to tell people that it's a book, it's fiction.
Occasionally you do have to do something like that, although never for like the small details.
Oh.
When somebody comes at me with a detail like that, then what I usually will say to them is, "Would you like to be a beta reader?" Because they've clearly got a better eye for detail than I do, and so I'll say, "Hey, check that. If you want to volunteer for this insane duty, then check this out, and you can read the book early." And so I've got this crew of people who are freakishly good at spotting weird little things, and then going, "Hey, what about this, or what about that, or don't you remember you killed this guy 3 books ago? Oh, all right, okay, yeah, I should probably take that into account." But I like to think of that as harnessing the fan crazy and helping to use it to make a better book for when the next book comes out.
Nice, like reflecting that laser beam back outward.
Reflecting it outward, I want to use it to forge new ultra pure alloys. Give me that laser beam. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those. It's one of those situations where you could react to it with hostility,
mm-hmm.
or I could feel offended by it when somebody comes out and does that. But that really doesn't. That's not good for them, and it's not good for me. But if I can go to them and say, "Hey, would you like to help me make this a better story by pointing out stuff like that?" then that gives me, that makes the book stronger. It makes my writing experience
mm-hmm.
That much better, and then the fans get to pitch in on it, and that's been a tremendous help to me, and I think it's been a tremendous help to the series as well.
Nice. And about how big of a, I don't know, I guess stable? How big of a stable do you have of beta readers?
There's about a dozen active beta readers at a time, and I wouldn't call them a stable. I call it the asylum. And there's about a dozen inmates of the asylum at a time.
Oh, is that the people that you thanked at I think it was at the beginning of Ghost Story? Was that?
Yeah, the Beta Foo Asylum is what I call
it. Oh my God, I saw that and I was like, why did he visit an asylum?
No, those are the people who help me make the books better.
Okay.
And well, see, it's a little bit easier for them because as the writer, not only do I have the book that actually exists in my head, but I've got the several versions of that book that have been edited are also somewhere in my head. And then all the versions of that book that could have been that I elected not to do are also in my head. So by the time I get to the end of a book, I can go back and read a book I wrote 2 or 3 years ago and went, oh, is this what I decided to do with this book? Oh, okay, right. Yeah, now I remember. But there's many, many different versions of the book for me to keep track of, whereas for the readers, there's just the one. So that kind of gives them an advantage in keeping track of the little details and the smaller things that I don't notice.
Yeah, it's hard to have like a actually it is kind of like a Wikipedia in your head, because like it could be edited by either one of your brains, depending on which story you wanted to tell. Yeah.
Oh man, I go to the Wikipedia when I want to know something. It's like, oh, wait a minute. How many kids does Michael and Charity have? Let me go. Wait, they're on the Wikipedia somewhere. Okay, and how old are they? Let me go to a different section of the Wikipedia that lists people's ages based, on the after Stormfront, the ASF date in the Dresden Files. Okay, so that's how old that kid is now. Right, got it. Go.
Nice. Yeah, it's nice to have that kind of. It's kind of like crowdsourcing.
Okay.
So fanboy obsession is actually a good thing sometimes.
I think so. I think it's one of those things that you can either, you get to choose what you want to do with it, and I think it's an awesome engine of watchfulness and continuity. That's what it is. It's a continuity engine.
Nice.
And when people come up with stuff like that, I like to grab them and say, "You come on, help me out." Help me make this better, and they never react like, "Oh, this author, what a jerk! He wants me to help him." That's never really the reaction. They're like, "Oh, I would love to do that." Okay, cool, thank you, man, and off we go.
Nice, that's great. And speaking of fans, I have we put on Twitter. It was like, who would you want to see on our show, and pretty much everybody was Jim Butcher. So we got one in particular though was at Schilt R, SCHILTR, and he basically said, "Get Jim Butcher on the show." That's a direct order from the Winter Court.
Okay.
So I said, "Hey, if you had a question to ask him, what would it be?" So we got one from him, and he wanted to know if you ever had, like, what made you choose urban fantasy over epic fantasy? Because I guess you kind of started off on the epic fantasy route and switched.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was going to be a swords and horses rider. Swords and horses fantasy writer, which is what the epic fantasy, swords and horses, that's the important part of that for me, or was when I was starting out. And I was writing several of these books, and I'd written several, and my writing teacher was trying to get me to learn how to write. And this was, I was taking a course called Writing a Genre Fiction Novel, which, that seems kind of straightforward for a college course, but there it is.
Oh, yeah.
And I was not listening to the teacher because I had a degree in English literature and with an emphasis on creative writing. So I knew everything there was to know about writing, because not only did I know how to read, I also knew how to write creatively. So clearly I knew more than my instructor, who had merely published 40 novels.
Oh, yeah.
And once I'd been, but I loved the class, and I loved what she had to say and all, and I loved arguing it and discussing it, because that's what you do in college, is you argue with everyone. And finally, one semester, she kept saying, "Jim, look, you're writing these fantasy novels, these big fantasy novels, but whenever we're talking about writing craft and story craft in class, you're always bringing up these other novels that you like, these urban fantasy books, or you're bringing up Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and maybe you should try writing something like that and just kind of see how it goes." And no, because I'm an urban fantasy author, and that is not what I'm an epic fantasy author, and that's not what epic fantasy authors do. But one semester, I finally decided that I was going to prove how wrong she was, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do exactly what she says. I'm going to be her good little writing monkey, and I'm going to fill out all her little charts, and I'm going to do all these little outlines, and I'm going to even write an urban fantasy book and put this character together in a Frankensteinian way that she's been suggesting, and she'll see how terrible and awful that kind of mechanical wooden process, you see what that results in, that awful pablum cookie cutter crap comes out of that. And I wrote Stormfront, which showed her.
Yeah.
But anyway, she read the first couple of chapters and said, "You know what? You did it." And I said, "What?" She says, "You did it. This is going to sell." She said, "I don't know if it'll be the first thing you sell, but this is of sellable quality. I think you'll get this sold." And as it turns out, she was right, and I was wrong. It took me years of therapy to admit that, but what can you do? Occasionally, when you're a dumb kid, you're a dumb kid, and you ought to listen to somebody. But it finally got it through my skull that, oh, wait a minute, she's got some really important things to teach me, and I started learning. And it was a couple of years after that that the first book got sold and the series took off.
That's great. And was that like and you had to, I heard you didn't just do the regular route of just sending it off, like to an agent. You actually went out and did some cons and Did some field work? Is that right?
I did the regular route too. In fact, I started keeping a file that I called the Rose file in a red folder of all my rejection letters, because one day I swore to myself I would be sending everybody in this file a copy of my first $1 check, along with a dead rose and a copy of their rejection letter, and that would be my vengeance. One day I swore, and because by the time you've been trying to get published for 7 or 8 years and you've gotten nothing, you start grasping at straws to keep yourself motivated. So I got kind of Ahab on the whole thing. I swore revenge. And then when I actually did get published, I went back to the Rose file. I had about 200 rejections in there, and I went back to the Rose file and opened it up and looked in there. And who's in the Rose file? Well, it was the agent I was currently working with at the time was in there, and the agent I'm working with now was in there, and my editor, my editor's boss, my editor's boss's friend. It's like all these people that are. It's like, well, maybe I won't send out a vengeance letter to anybody. Maybe that would be smarter. I just acknowledged that I wasn't up to speed yet, and so I didn't actually send vengeance, but I had tons of letters. But what really made the difference, though, was getting out and actually meeting the people who are in the industry, getting out to conventions, sitting down and talking with them. When I finally did that, and it was at a convention where not only was my original agent, Risha Mainhart, was there, but Jen Jackson, who's my current agent, was there. I got there and started sitting down and talking to people and being chatty and not going, here's my book, here's all about my book. I was just talking to people.
Buy my book.
It's like, I cruised up to Laurel Hamilton, who was at this convention, and she was surrounded by fans who were all, Richard, John Claude, Anita. And I kind of walked up and in the middle of the conversation kind of turned to Laurel and said, hey, do you watch Buffy? And she says, I love Buffy. And we started talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Avalon 5 and hanging out. And that was kind of when the difference got made, was when you connected with people on something on a level that was not just the writing. So I hung out with Laurel and I hung out with Risha and with Jen Jackson and because Jen Jackson was one of the only other people around who had played the Amber Diceless role playing game, and it's like, oh, okay, well now I can geek about this, and by the end of the weekend I'd gotten offers for representation from a couple of people, and Jen came up to me and made the offer, and I said, but you rejected me, and Jen says, I know. I said, a week ago. I mean, the ink isn't dry on the letter yet. She says, yeah, I know, but now I've met you, and and that's the difference right there. I think the breaking in the writing business is all about tiebreakers. Because you've got, all these people are trying to get published, and it's a huge number. And tiebreakers are the things that kind of get you through to the next gate. So, if you're the one who doesn't have any grammar or spelling errors in your first chapter, well, that puts you, that breaks the tie of the other person who sent things in on the same day who does have issues. If you're the one who, behaved according to the submission guidelines that the editor had laid out, then you're the one that goes through versus the guy who didn't. And it keeps and you just keep running those gates like that until if you're in the final crew of people who have jumped all the hurdles, and now you're looking, the agent is making a judgment based upon what they think about the saleability of your writing. Really, I think breaking in is it's like running away from a bear. If you and all the other wannabe writers are running from a bear, you don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than them. Right. So when you're trying to get into the writing industry, it's the same way. You don't have to outright me to break into the writing industry. You don't have to outright Stephen King. You don't have to outright Dean Koontz or any of these other experienced authors, because you're not in competition with them. You're in competition with the other newbies. So really, all you have to do is outright the newbies, and to do that, you can get rid of about 95% of them just by being you can beat about 95% of them just by being professional and paying attention to submission guidelines and spelling and grammar. That puts you ahead of most people, which it sounds crazy, but it's true. And then after that, all that really remains after that is you need to be a more skilled writer than the other ones than the other people who kind of made it through the hurdles, and that is just a matter of practice. If you stay at it practicing long enough, you will break in, because eventually you will be the best or the most skilled of the newbies who are out there in the field that year. I mean, the editors, the agents, they have to pick up new people all the time, because if they don't pick up the newbies, then pretty soon all their authors die and there's nobody left to write books. So they have to buy newbies every year. So you're competing for those 2 or 3 newbie slots at each house. And that's cool. I mean, that's really, it's not an issue of am I the most talented? It's an issue of, have I worked the hardest? Have I put in the most effort? Have I learned and tried to grow? I mean, you don't just keep submitting the same thing over and over and hoping it goes through. Yeah. You write your project, and then you get done with that story, and you go to the next story, and you try and make it something better and cooler than you did before. So really, I mean, I think that's the big illusion of breaking into writing that people don't really understand is there. It's not about, am I the most talented person in the field? You can be the most talented person in the field and still not be bright enough to pay attention to an agent's submission guidelines or an editor's submission guidelines, and you're not going to get read. It's more about, can you maintain that professional level of standards of providing what the publishers want, and is your ability as a writer better than the competition? I mean, it's not an issue of talent. It's an issue of have you developed the talent you have to be better than the other newbies, because you don't have to be better than somebody like me. You just have to be better than the other folks who haven't got published yet, and then you've got your shot. After that, then you have to start playing big league ball. But getting in, that's the tough part, and it's a matter of time and determination more than anything else.
Even though you use the running away from a bear metaphor, that actually, that makes it feel a lot less scary. Is knowing that you're just, you got to run your race. You just got to run faster than, you don't have to outrun an Olympic athlete. It's just other people that are like you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly. And that's how you get to be somebody who's like me, because really there's no quantitative difference in the me that couldn't get a book sold and the me now. I mean, I was writing the same stories, I was doing the same stuff, but I was having to learn how to make the correct impression and how to do the things that would help me, would help get people to take me more seriously in the business. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, all these editors and folks had been seeing my stuff for years. I mean, like 5-7 years. Rejected by these guys, and when I talk to people later, they're like, "Oh yeah, you just kept showing up, and when we knew you would make it in, you would do it eventually, because you just wouldn't go away. It's like this, you bought me because just to get me to leave you alone. Yeah, eventually, yeah, that's kind of, we have to do it."
Well, so you really do have to just sit there on the porch, Fight Club style, and not get off?
More or less, yeah. I mean, and you don't be a jerk about it. I mean, you stand there when they come and open the door and look at you. You should be standing there with cookies. But and here, yeah, I mean, you have to have that kind of cheerful determination of, I'm not going to be stopped. And okay, you don't like that? Okay, cool. I'll go fix it, and I'll be back tomorrow. Here I am. And that's the kind of resolve and determination that is what gets you into the industry. There are very few people who get it in the industry. Here, I wrote a book. Oh, it's great. It's wonderful. We love it. Let's buy it right away. I mean, that never happens to anybody except my wife, Shannon. The rest of us get rejection letters. Lots of rejection letters. Yeah, Shannon never actually got a rejection letter. She sent out the first book, and it went to auction, and I just looked at her shaking my head, because I'd been telling her all along, it's going to be hard, but you'll be able to do it. What's so hard about that? It's like, just hit me over the head with a bat. Why don't you? That'll be less painful.
Yeah. Well, what now what the kind of intimidating part of that is with the getting published is, you always kind of get it in your head, like, authors are, these reclusive cabin in the woods type people whiskey in one hand, blah blah blah. But it's no, you actually have to be social. You have to talk to people, and you have to play nice. And no writer is an island.
That's the smart way to do it in many ways, especially with the internet the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can sit here in my ratty old flannel bathrobe and still be doing interviews, and talk to people. Theoretically, I could do this from a cabin in the woods as well.
Yeah.
But that's the other side of the coin. Is you're not just doing the writing. You've also got to kind of build up your author image, I guess. I actually had my agent first told me, my original agent told me, you're going to have to think of an image and that you can kind of project when you're out in public. You need something that people will be able to recognize you by. And I'm like, okay. How about if I wear blue jeans and black T-shirts that say something smartass on them? And the agent's like, okay, that's interesting. Why would you want to do that? I said, because it's easy and really comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
And so they're like, okay, well, if that's something that you want to do, yeah, go for it. But you got to, it's sort of the thing you consider. But if you think of somebody like Neil Gaiman shows up in black in a black leather jacket because that's Neil Gaiman. Okay, that's but that's stuff that you never really consider when you're learning how to write.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever tells you, when you're learning how to write, here's how to manage your time when you're being invited to 30 conventions a year, and yet you still got to get your writing done and so on. So
and annoying podcast interviews. Yeah.
And these are the ones I like, though, because I go to my desk, I sit down with a Coke and my headset, and I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy. Going, it's like nobody told me, in my writing and not a genre fiction novel class, here's how you do an interview on television, and
Yeah, I saw you on the Sword and Laser, the YouTube video. That was fun.
Yeah, that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that seemed like it might be kind of, that's like a webcam type thing, so it's not like you have to get too dressed up for that either, I guess.
Right. Well, plus, my professional wear is a black T-shirt.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
So I feel increasingly wise to have chosen this as my professional uniform.
Well, there you go. So good advice for any new authors is just, wear something that's comfortable and breathable.
Wear something,
like memorable, but within reason. You can't show up to a publisher's house in nothing but a Boba Fett helmet, march around.
That's for more when you're doing the public stuff later, like when you're going to conventions and so on.
Okay.
As far as the actual publisher goes, with them, all that matters is your professional conduct and your work. That's what's important to them.
Yeah, they don't care about pants.
Yeah, really, it's not. Well, I suggest you wear some if you ever meet any, or other appropriate lower body attire.
Okay.
But
yeah, not a whole lot of famous nudist authors I found.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah. Oh boy.
But anyway, it's for publishers. It's all about your work and the manner in which you present your work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can also show up and meet them and be kind of polite and not fall over your feet or spill your drink on them or otherwise alienate them in some way, then that's a positive, because they figure if you can meet them and kind of behave like a reasonable human being, then maybe you can do the same thing for readers someday. But really, what they look at is the writing and the way in which you present your writing to them.
Okay, well, great. I guess I'll just derail the conversation here.
Here, let me derail the conversation first with something. I just got a call from my editor, which I didn't take because I was on the phone with you guys. But Shannon took it past me notes, so apparently Cold Days is number one on the Times list this week. So
nice.
Oh, yay. Number one New York Times.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. This calls for celebration. After I'm done with this, I will go to Burger King.
Nice.
Burger King was my when I was trying to break in, and we were in college, and we both of us were in school, and when we had Jay, and so I was working extra part-time jobs and so on. And there never was a lot of money, but whenever I wanted to celebrate good news, and at that time, good news was getting a form letter that was or a rejection letter that wasn't a form letter. That was good.
Right.
That was progress at the time, and whenever something good happened, I would celebrate by going to Burger King because it was the only thing I could afford to celebrate in terms of celebratory meal. And now that I'm more successful, it would seem kind of cheap to me to cut out on Burger King after it had been there for all those good times for me when I was poor.
Oh yeah,
and struggling. And so now when something good happens, I still go to Burger King because I don't want to jinx it.
Well, that's great news. Yeah, it's nice. I hope to have that feeling someday. I don't know how to say congratulations to that because it's not like having it's like, oh, I just finished a short story. It's like number one. Wow.
This is another one of those things that they never really taught me in how to write a genre fiction novel class.
Yeah.
is how to deal with this stuff. It's kind of a relief. Is really because you worry because once you've gotten your series going, and once you're there, it's like, okay, well, where can I go from here? Down. It's right. That's the downside of it, I suppose. If there is a downside, that's just a hell of an awesome downside, though.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's like you can go up all the way to the top and then just a little down at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about being about being able to write for a living is that you have the most awesome problems ever. It's like, oh, wait a minute, they're shipping me 3,000 books to sign, and oh my gosh, I've got some kind of tendon damage in my hand from all these autographs, and it's like, well, what an awesome problem that is. I mean, it hurts, but it's awesome. I would have murdered somebody to have this problem when I was trying to break in.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so if you're for the new writers that are out there, for the aspiring writers that are out there, you just have to keep going, and then you too will have awesome problems. You just have to make sure you don't give up.
Nice. I look forward to that eventually. Just having my hand cramping up from signing too many autographs. That sounds like a very good problem.
It is. It is an awesome problem. Out of time here, guys. Is there anything else you wanted to hit before?
Oh no. Actually, that we can go ahead and wrap it up. I just wanted real quick. There's, for anybody who might not know, there's a big history of Dresden Files to look up. There's Codex Alera, and there's also you're working on a steampunk now?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. The title of the series is right now it's the Cinder Spires, and the first book is called The Aeronauts Windlass, and I'm really involved in that at the moment. I'm having a really good time with it.
That's nice. And any time that in the foreseeable future that might be coming out?
Well, I kind of have to finish it by the end of this month, which will be a bit of a challenge, but that's okay because challenges are cool. And then after it's done, I can start on the next Dresden book, and we'll start the process of getting it sold and to a publisher. But I don't think I'll have any. I don't think I'll have any trouble selling it, but I don't know when it'll be out.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as Cold Days doesn't end in a big cliffhanger or anything, that should be fine.
I don't end books on cliffhangers. I don't know what anyone's talking about. They keep talking about.
Yeah, everybody was saying Ghost Story was a big cliffhanger, but no, I mean, he died. You could have not written another book, and that would have been a sufficient ending,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if I'd been completely sick of the series or something.
Yeah.
And he died. The end.
Yeah, he got ran over by a train.
That would have been popular. Yeah, great ending.
That's like the what I always do. I'll tell this story and we can wrap it up. My dad told me a long time ago he was reading a little article in National Lampoon's magazine, and it said for anybody out there that's writing a story or writing a book, if you're having trouble coming up with the ending, just go with the tagline, and suddenly everybody was run over by a truck. So yeah, you totally could have done that, and I'll do that sometimes. But sometimes if I'm writing sci-fi, it has to be like a space truck, or if it's fantasy, it has to be like a horse-drawn carriage or a chariot.
Right.
So, all right, well, that's great. So, you basically just Google Jim Butcher. You're at Longshot Author on Twitter, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's correct. And also, if you want to stop by my live journal at jimbutcher.livejournal.com, I've got a bunch of basic of articles that are there that are essentially just basic writing lessons for people who are interested in becoming a writer. And it's the stuff that my teacher taught me, and I try and lay it out as simply as I can. So it might be of help to some writers. It's not going to be the right way to write for everybody, but there are some people out there who, if they grab it and use it, it might be very useful for them.
Well, great. That somehow got by me. I'm going to look that up now.
Cool. I hope you like it.
All right. Well, Jim, again, congratulations on being number one, and I hope you have a good trip to Burger King.
I shall. Thank you very much.
All right, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk to us. It was a real pleasure.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So yeah, if at any point there's another book you'd like to promote, we would we will throw up the banner anytime.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
I mean, not like you need it, but it's just just in case.
Oh, well, my editors and agents and people like that, or my assistant is always telling me how important the promotion stuff is. And mostly I just want to get to start writing the next book. But I kind of think that's a little more important. But they tell me it's important. So they give me orders. Go here, go there, talk to these people. Okay, I'll do that. I've been married a long time. I can do that.
That sounds like a whole show topic all on its own right there.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So before we open that can of worms.
Right. Okay.
Again, it was a pleasure, and I look forward to finishing Cold Days and everything else that comes out.
Okay, until next time.
All right, until then.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.